latest episode of Enterprising Minds. Got the whole crew here, and we have our first remote caller with Ruthi sitting in the park. So yeah, today we're gonna jump on the bandwagon of the death of SEO. This has come up a lot for me lately with, market planning activities and season, that we're in right now, of all that. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there are a lot of really well-meaning people who get a lot of their information off of LinkedIn without actually ever clicking into articles, who are then just saying SEO is dead and we need to just not focus on it. It's like, you don't know how this works, do you? Is that your impression, or would you frame it in a much nicer way? Maybe I'm a little spicy for today's topic. I don't know yet. What do you guys think?
I think that's pretty close.
Yeah.
I've been getting kind of the other version of like SEO, is it obsolete? And a lot of people questioning of like, it has value right now, but is it gonna like be worth the effort because it's a slow growth strategy kind of thing? So it's like we're gonna build out content. Well, content takes a long time to build out and it's high effort. So is it worth it? That's usually where the kind of the flavor of it that I get. Um, we're pretty metric heavy, data heavy, so at least people are constantly shown that organic means a lot to the business. So that helps, I think, kind of push it off for now, but it's a future question. What about you,
And I would
Ruthi?
say I'm getting a third one altogether, which is SEO is transforming into AI optimization, and AI optimization is a different flavor of essentially content optimization that you would do for SEO. Now
Right.
you take those same basic practices and you apply them to AI. And my question is whether or not some of the new tools that are coming out that are like, oh, we're going to improve your relevancy for AI, whether or not those are sort of like some of the old initial SEO tools which were kind of like, ooh, magic, and you had to sort of figure out where's the BS versus what is actually impactful.
I've been getting that a lot with the keyword like AI tools right now that claim that they can see what, how many searches or what people are searching for or whatever else. And then if you actually look into those tools, the first step is put in your 10 keywords, and then we're going to basically just ping a bunch of AI tools, and then we'll see what the response is. And we'll just
Yeah.
do that every week, and we'll just scrape it for you. And it's like this is bare basics SEO from way back when, of like what the keyword research, quote unquote, or keyword tracking tools used to do. Like, and as we know nowadays, like it's topical SEO. It's more broad than that. It doesn't make sense.
I was speaking to a mutual friend of ours in Europe, and um, found an article on LinkedIn, and it was one of these talking heads who was trying to sound more intelligent. Like, I think, Alex, the last time you and I talked about this, it's like, look, I respect the hustle of LinkedIn, and it's necessary if you're trying to drum up new business. Like, I get it, right? It's the game we play.
Right.
However, this AEO, IEO, IOU, like whatever you want to call them, I found this article. This person was like, "Oh, SEO is dead. It's now AEIOU. We're doing this thing," and I sent it over to a friend, and it's like, "This is exactly what we were doing 15 years ago with sort of white hat SEO stuff. Like, this has not changed, right?" And that was sort of an initial instinct. So I'm like, "All right, I gotta go prove this out to myself. Like, just make sure I'm not being a jerk, like." And um I was thinking, I was like, yeah, this really feels like the blend of stuff that I was pitching the clients, where you would put together old school PR tactics combined with content marketing and SEO online. And that was always a winning combination. And it's like, this is just the exact same thing in a new wrapper, you know? There's really nothing. The only thing that's changed is it's a new generation trying to, play the game. That's the only thing I can see.
Here's something that has changed. I'm so curious about your thoughts about LLMs
Mm-hmm.
make content. They're very good at it. And so what I'm seeing is a whole suite of MarTech tools that have never, marketing technology tools that have never played in the content generation space, all of a sudden adding add-ons that say, hey, we are going to provide you recommendations to your content, which you're storing in our platforms, whether those be content management systems, DAMs, PIMs, it's you name it, let alone the SEO tools, all of a sudden have this add-on that say, hey, we're going to take your content, we are going to take some external data source, and we are going to start offering you suggestions about how you can improve your content in platform. And that is sort of a different element in which it's so widespread, where you're getting these inputs to, hey, update your content in this way.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because from like an operation standpoint and like a legal standpoint, right? You have to keep in certain heavily regulated things, right? If you're subject to legal holds, this was something I learned recently. You're actually required to keep the output and the prompt for whatever the generation was in case it comes up for deposition. Now, mind you, not legal expert, talk to your lawyers, all of those caveats, right? Like you need your own legal professional. But I thought that was interesting because that was the first time I'd ever heard that. And I would bet 90% of people are not saving the prompts. Once you get to the answer, you close the tab, you're done, right? And to your point, yeah, if all of the systems are now generating content and all of them are using whatever suite of AI tools to power the back end, right? Following where, who, what models were being used for the content becomes really hard. To the point where you're just going to have to take down whatever was created because you don't have the necessary back end stuff, right?
Yeah. And I suppose the other series of questions I got, so you've got all the logistical considerations around legal approval, somebody checking, reviewing, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's this other piece, which is what is the value add? How do we think about the value add? So if all of our different data platforms are generating content, and presumably that content is, even if it's just slightly better than what was there before, now all of a sudden have we increased the bar on the quality of content from an AI perspective. Like we could spend a whole section just talking about that, of whether or not are we creating content for bots to read that is then read by bots and then optimized for more bots? Like where does that cycle end? But then this other piece is, does that increase the importance of having original content, which then you can continuously improve? How does that change the content play within the marketing space, if at all?
I definitely have some opinions, but Alex, you've been kind of quiet today. Do you want to turn?
Yeah, I was just going back to that favorite phrase of jobs to be done. Speaking of the AIO, GIO, I mean, whatever else, it's content discovery. It's still content discovery. It's a question of basically is what's the format, what's the searching process, what's the mentality of the individual when they're going through that, and then how do you match that so that it's useful and beneficial to you. You're getting the right kind of people. That's a piece of it, and you're getting people. I mean, you're getting traffic in general. And speaking of 15 years ago, there used to be a thing called PLR, privately labeled rights content, and people would give away packs all the time of like 10,000 articles, 5,000 articles. Sign up for this thing, and I'll also include a freebie of 5,000 PLR articles that once you have them, they're yours. You can put them on your blog, and you can now have 5,000 blog posts. That was always the game, right? And
Mhm.
people were just scraping and, creating bigger and bigger packs out of these things. So eventually you could get, tens of thousands of these things. Value to search engines, of course, is zero because it's duplicate content of somebody else's. So what are you doing? Plus, you're just posting a bunch of random articles on random topics so that you can get clicks. For what purpose?
Right.
Right? Question mark, kind of all over that. So, speaking of like tools that give you, content recommendations, all the rest of this stuff, it still gets down to like a human being saying, does this make sense? What is the strategy behind this? And using the tool in a way where it actually fits that strategy. Doesn't matter if it's a PLR article or AI slop or whatever, you created it yourself. I mean, it still fits that same kind of question mark of, does it make any sense? Does it still fit your business needs? Is it actually going to attract people that you want?
Right.
I don't know. I'm just kind of stuck in the camp of like, I was actually just asking ChatGPT. I was like, give me some jobs that AI is going to get rid of. It gave me a list, and then which jobs would be safe, and went back and forth. And one of the ones that included in a longer term line was marketing strategist. And I had a bit of a bone to pick with that, not surprisingly, because there's an executional layer, yes, but there is execution with no thought is pointless.
Yeah.
There's so much of it is just directing it properly, putting things together with things that make sense. I don't know. I keep having also, like, just to aside, I keep having experiences with large corporations that I think of as saying, if this was a small company, this would never happen because one, it'd be probably the same person talking about this, and two, they realize that this doesn't make any sense and they would just correct it because that's a human to human thing to do.
Right.
Versus kind of like a blank slate corporate process sort of thing, which in the end makes no sense for so many cases.
Right. You spend more time arguing about who's responsible for the thing instead of actually fixing the thing.
Or
Like,
just, yeah, silly policies that don't make any sense for the situation, but you're still doing it because that's your process.
yeah. I think so. For me, is it still worth it to create content? Yes, I believe it is. Because your company, whether it wants to or not, or what you as an individual, whether you want to or not, the content you put out creates an impression about you,
True.
and the content you don't put out creates an impression about you, right? Um, so having the ability to represent yourself to the people who come to your site in the way that you want to is always going to be a thing. Now, as I say this, and as I was listening to you guys talk, there is a fundamental understanding of old SEO where we are optimizing for clicks and traffic to the website. However, with how insular all the social media platforms are becoming and the zero click reality of a lot of search queries, I don't know that we're optimizing for clicks anymore, right? You're optimizing for relevance in the topics
Yep.
so that as you um as people are searching and interacting with a certain field or a certain set of topics, those are the things that you show up for, right? I was talking to someone we know that's on a local um, marketing association board, and it's specifically SEO. And so I asked her, like, so are you thinking of sort of or SEO AI metrics in the same way you would display advertising? If we're not optimizing for clicks, would you use the display ads? Sets of metrics where it's now all of a sudden is reach and impressions, and how does that play into our ability to remarket things in other areas or other platforms? Because if you're getting the answer via AI mode, you know, from an analytics standpoint, we're not necessarily going to see that, right?
Yeah.
I can see both of you are thinking. So who wants to who wants to think out
Yeah,
loud?
Go
you
for
guys
it.
have given me so much on this topic. Do you want to go first, Alex? Do you want me to take it?
No. Go.
Okay, here's some of the things that I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's bringing about sort of new perspectives on this. So the first thing I think about is, and this is related to your comment, Dave, about with social media platforms, it's not about optimizing for the clicks necessarily. And I think that might even be more so when you're optimizing for AI. You want, like, your end goal is to make sure that an AI is representing your suite of products in a way that's going to inspire somebody to click. Okay, that does a couple things. One is it puts a lot higher premium on third-party reviews of some form, right?
Right.
Especially if you're in an area where publications are important, like peer-reviewed publications. Because if you've got a peer-reviewed publication saying yours is the best product, all of a sudden, like, that's going to lend more credence to you yourself saying we're the best product. At which point, the importance of that click through, you now focus your attention on, let's make sure that that person who is primed and ready to buy, because they're going to be even further down the funnel by the time they click, that is as seamless as possible. So I think it puts a premium on third-party information, and it also puts a premium on your ability to guide the customer at the end of the funnel. The other thought I have is, now that your customer has your product, making sure that the LMs have the correct information to be able to troubleshoot or use it, right? Because that's going to be their first go-to. The second chain of thought I had is, we saw throughout the progression of SEO, it started out very keyword based. And when we say keyword, it was a keyword, like one word. And then slowly you're adding words and adding words. And then long tail eventually became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
With that, the importance of being niche so that you could address specific needs came in. I wonder if that's also going to become even more important when we work in a world of AI, because people can be much more specific about the thing they need, and so companies whose products are focused on very specific niches and who can tell their story about how it's adapt for specific niches are going to be really important. The example that came to mind was, very recently, I was looking for new dog food. I had my little auto ship on Chewy, but I was like, I don't really know where this is sourced. I'd prefer, like, I have a dog, so the dog has to eat protein. Protein comes from animals, but I just assumed that the animals my dog is eating had a happy life too, right? I like animals. So, like, there's this whole thing. And so I was like, okay, ChatGPT, like, what are my options here? Like, what are considerations I can have if I want to be a little bit more thoughtful in what I feed my dog? And all of a sudden, they're like, here, this is Open Farm, right? Not a sponsorship or anything, but like, this is Open Farm. They can source their stuff. They have these thoughtful things. And all of a sudden, I found this company that I'd never known about that focuses on a very niche thing, because I was asking much more niche questions. And I would never have found that company through the old ways of sort of my old ways, we'll put it that way, my old ways of interacting with either social media or search engines and things. And so that sort of changes the content question in a big way, because perhaps the role that your own content plays is to make sure you're showcasing you address those niches, and then you're using the third party to say, yes, this is quality.
Yeah, there was a Kevin Indig webinar that I went to earlier this year where he, just sort of came out and said clicks are vanity metrics now. Like, just don't even, they're empty calories. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting opening statement, but I'll follow. And it was essentially that, where it was, okay, the study that he did, and granted it was a fairly small study, but you can find it online with some of his clients. The words used in the search got longer, so the searches are more specific, but then there were actually additional searches created because people would take the AI answer and then go to a place like Reddit, Instagram, YouTube to validate the information they got from the AI answer from a quote real person, right? And so this is where we know people are going to use AI. We know we're going to have to set up content optimized for discoverability in whatever shape it takes. One of the other questions that we're going to have to figure out too is, do we leverage an AI avatar and AI creation for those videos or for the audio podcast, because we're getting to that point now? Or is there a certain amount of trust or brand differentiation that you want to create by having only real people communicating your messages? Because I think one of the fatal flaws from the old version of the internet as we were coming up was this over reliance on listening to tech founders who don't care about marketing. They only care about getting their investments and their exits, right? Because that's the game they're playing. There's they want to get rid of marketing because it's seen as an expense, not factoring in how much marketing creates the perception of not only the leaders of the company but also the products that they're and services that they're selling. Right?
I'm kind of blown away a little bit by this conversation because it's kind of hitting me of a lot of companies go through kind of different cycles. Product-led growth typically is the beginning, where you have a decent service or product that works well enough that you can compete in the market, or maybe it's a new market, right? You get some growth there. Typically that plateaus at a certain point because that's it. And now you're at this kind of zero-sum game thing where if the pie chart is the entire market, you've got your slice. If you want to increase, you got to take from somebody else. To compete against them, you need to do marketing. And then usually it's marketing-led growth that kind of becomes, you hire in the marketing team. You had your engineers, you had your manufacturing to begin with, you got that done, great.
Right.
You got a solid product, but now you need to sell it more and better. So the sales team comes on, then the marketing team comes on, and then you start to get marketing-led growth. That's your next, trajectory kind of push. Piece of that also is, so keeping that in mind, so we have very product focused mentality. And now we're trying to get into an open market, kind of push it broader, which means more use cases, trying to put in more solutions, seen as a solution for more use cases, more, the edges of each one of these markets for awareness and education, trying to push into all those areas, right? That's kind of the job. Partner that with the idea that if we go to ChatGPT or something else, I'm going to get very quickly from a real broad phrase all the way down to a brand, maybe even a specific product, maybe even a model number, and potentially a link straight to that product, or even with some of the new ones, a purchase within. Won't even go to the site, but it'll just purchase right there.
Right.
So we're losing a little bit of that top funnel awareness, right? So different ideas here. So one is we've got this marketing kind of emphasis going on right now with a lot of companies. Part two is basically top line awareness is getting opaque. We basically just can't see it as well as we used to because people were searching on Google. We got the data. They were kind of going through that whole process. And if we had the content that was the top 10 and whatever else, we got to see it. Otherwise, I went to other websites and then they still came up with a brand name or product, model number. And then they finally landed on our website because we had very product focused copy. It's kind of the crux of that model, and that content model is when you're stuck with all this product focused copy, it doesn't really help show all those different situations, to your point of kind of broadening it out. So I'm trying to put these two together, and then I'm starting to think about the idea also when people are searching in AI, ChatGPT, whatever, ChatGPT then just turns around and searches on Google or Bing. And actually in Google Search Console, I found out actually yesterday some ways to kind of pull out a little bit of that data. And it is super long. I mean, it's like 10 words long or more. And you can definitely see the same person or the same search like come up a few times because they're using the exact same phrasing or just kind of odd phrasing, and it's like 5 different searches in a row, and you start to see all the impression counts and all the rest, and clearly it's the AI tool doing the searching. So what does that mean? It still means some of those queries are best whatever for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Same SEO thing from the year before. Like that didn't change at all. That was basically the exact same phrase, the same one we were going after. Now it just happens to be an AI bot who happens to be searching it versus a human being searching it. And now it's the exact same piece of content.
Yep.
They're still finding it the same way. They're still ranking on a search engine because they're using search engines.
It's essentially like having the intern do the search and come back to you and be like, hey, here's what I found.
Yeah.
But I heard a rumor that the intern is more likely to use Bing. So do we need to just make sure that Bing is optimized rather than Google?
Do both. I mean, basically across Claude, Perplexity, everybody else, Gemini, whatever, Copilot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's honestly, it's the same from an SEO standpoint. There's very little difference. If you get down to it from a technical SEO perspective, if you want to throw that in just for a minute, there's a difference between HTML lang and some other like little tags like that, href lang versus HTML lang. If you're doing globalization, different phrases, different translations, important to look into because different search engines are slightly different when it gets those fine points. Overall, though, exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because it goes down to the same problem of how do you index the entire web? And the answer is with a ton of money and a ton of infrastructure and a ton of resources. And maybe, ChatGPT with all the different data centers and all the rest will get to the point where they can finally have the number of servers that it takes to have a copy literally of the web, which is what you're searching on Google. It's always a copy of the web, of what they've crawled, indexed, ranked. They already did all that process for them. I don't know if ChatGPT really wants to take on that job. Maybe they do. They could have their own search engine kind of environment like that, but I bet they want a browser and not actually host all that stuff, right?
Right.
So then you're
And I think
still
we've had
down
similar
to
conversations
optimizing for.
before. Oh, sorry, go.
Oh, I'm just saying you're still down to optimizing for Google.
Yep.
Still same situation. And to your other earlier kind of points too of like the 10 years back, 15 years back aspect, it's absolutely true in that if we have a more opaque environment where people are learning more without our knowledge, we see less of that traffic. We will get less of that kind of human beings on our site doing those kind of searches. We might still see some searches. We might still get impressions, AIOs, the AI overviews in Google. I mean, it's been going nuts lately.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff still happens, but also 10 years back, that just meant you had a billboard or a trade show. Pre-COVID, it was a lot more popular. And then a lot of people learned about things and you never knew about it because there was word of mouth or the visual with print.
Right.
Still came to the site, still had a purchase at the end of the day. That part doesn't change.
And if it did change, then local insurance lawyers and injury lawyers would not have the billboard budgets that they do.
It's true. I mean, there's a reason they do it. Like,
It is.
that still works.
Talked about it before, and it just the last couple of statements you've made about the billboards and the print. The technology builds upon itself. It doesn't fully replace. I mean, Kevin Kelly wrote a book called The Technium, and he explores this idea. And he looks at the Sears catalog and how many things from the original Sears catalog can still be purchased. And it's almost all of them, I think, was sort of the point. And I think that's relevant here too. Of it's an and in this case, the and of AI is built off of, to your point, Alex, some of the infrastructure that already exists. In fact, a lot of the infrastructure that already exists. And so if you're optimizing for AI, in many ways, you're optimizing for search.
Yep.
So SEO is not dead.
Yeah, it really isn't. It's just same thing again.
And it's the same problem of just creating the content is not actually marketing. You need to then go market the content you created in order to market the products and services that you're selling.
I mean, you're absolutely right with that. Like third-party verified review site, peer journal, whatever it is, Gartner quadrant thing, Magic Quadrant thing, whatever it is. It's true. You have to be in those things to be seen as a player in that market that's worth thinking about, and then you're going to still show up there. And to your question also of kind of AI at the front door, I'm still going to go back to like a jobs to be done sort of thing with a small business model of saying, do I want my random family member who really doesn't understand the business at all to be the one to greet customers? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Or I really want to make sure that they know what they're doing, or that they pull me in real quick once they start getting questions and they pick up the phone and somebody asks something that they have no idea, but then they're going to be on hold with hold music. Like, that's, am I really helping out this customer, or am I just giving more steps?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not really seeing it. Like, and I think that's the problem with a lot of the chatbots right now, of they're best, same thing with agents, any of these things, they're best when they're very, very focused. And there's some companies I've seen do it well, where they have an overall chatbot that starts the conversation and says, do you want one of these 5 things? When you do it, you can actually see slight personality changes, because you've picked now bot number 2 or bot number 3 or bot number 4 who's good at returns, but the other one isn't. Like, they're very situational, right? But it's still, at the end of the day, keeps running back to the same point of, or do you want to talk to a human? Because the complexity is always there.
And what do you trust more?
The bot's
Do you feel
fast,
like
if
you're
it's after
taken
hours.
advantage of with robots? Yeah, maybe, because it's unfair. You don't know how it's set up. You know,
Yeah,
it's easy to create a story for the void.
and they're probably not going to give you a discount code at the end.
No, no. But I mean, to your point with the jobs to be done, the way that I've been using AI has changed a little bit, and I was laying on the couch and I was trying to watch the Lynx game because they're doing really well in the playoffs. So I'm like, I want to watch it. I want to see a Minnesota sports team do well for a change. That would be nice. And I have a lot of streaming apps sort of accidentally, right? And I have my main sports ones, but even with the main sports ones, I'm finding that there are blackouts for games that I want to watch, even though I'm subscribed to the NFL app. I can't watch games in real time. I have to wait for the games to be over to then watch the replay. Like, what is the point of that, right? So I went to Google Gemini and did deep search, and I just said, I'm trying to watch sports, for these teams. I have all of these apps, and I feel like I'm getting hosed. How do I watch? How do I actually watch this for a reasonable price per month? And oh, by the way, I have a kid, so I can't get rid of kids programming. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and it went and it did a deep research and it did a whole comparison of, okay, you can do traditional cable, you can do this streaming thing, or you could do YouTube TV. And I'm like, okay. And, instead of spending an entire afternoon frustrated because I feel like I'm being taken advantage of and nickel and dimed, 30 minutes later, I had an answer and I had signed up.
Yep.
So now I can actually watch Minnesota sports teams on TV like I was doing 20 years ago.
About to say, it's like, you reinvented cable. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Got you. Love that. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, this ended up, I was unsure how this topic was going to go. I'm always excited by our conversations to see how we navigate all of them. Hopefully, dear listener, you have found this as interesting as we have. Obviously, we're not going to solve it in a half an hour, but this has solidified a number of things for me. So thanks for listening. We will see you in the next episode in 2 weeks. Go like, subscribe, share. That helps us out. We've been getting a lot of good conversations from people in real life, actually, about the episode. So join that, and join the community of people that have signed up for the Pathways newsletter, because that's where we're going in deeper dives on the topics. And I've been getting some good feedback on some of the things we've gone there, and people are actually like trying AI for the first time, or applying it to their work scenarios. So that's very cool. Thank you to everybody who's done that and told us, because that's exciting. So have a great 2 weeks. We'll see you later. Take care.